Hey everyone, just want to bring you to a press conference that's being held right now by faith leaders. This concerns so-called Cop City, the planned new training facility for the Atlanta Police Department. Let's take you in live.
That we ring the alarm and dispel the false narrative that is outside agitators who don't want this. We know that this is the rhetoric that's been going on ever since abolition began, that it's outside agitators. They said slaves didn't want to be free, but it was white people from the North who wanted it. That's a lie. They said that black people in the South didn't want civil rights, but it was white people from the North. That's a lie. Today they are claiming that the black people love Cop City. It's outside agitators from elsewhere, and that, again, is a lie. Simply because the police have chosen to systematically arrest people from out of state doesn't mean that what they're saying is the truth. So without belaboring the point, I am going to call on someone who is extremely important in this movement, because all of this is a fight over land, which white people have been waging since the beginning of time, a fight over land. I am going to call Miko Shaban Colonel of the Muskogee Creek people, whose land is continually disenfranchised, to help bring a bit more clarity to this moment, to this movement, and to tell you why we will not stop fighting against Cop City. And after you hear from Miko Shaban Colonel, we'll have Reverend Darcy Jarrett once again bring you the occasion for today.
If you'll bear with me for a moment, I'm going to bring you into my world so that you can acknowledge the spiritual landowners of these territories, so that you can acknowledge everything that my relative just shared about these homelands that our Muskogee people call. But to do that, I'm going to say this in my language and I'll translate afterwards. Woman hayoma, womajalekadade, yana bogade, aha githik jagis, ano gitska, iastida, asak kwechka, idmo jagida, o hagatheje, istijadelge in hadjatska, abogade, aha githik, chayofan, in Fullerton modern, o hagasamas, olipkas, Estamasco Galgi, Polagan, Atakweje, Folidois. In this time, let us take this moment to remember the ancient ones who lived in this very area. Let us be mindful of the love, respect, and humbleness they had for all people and for this land that gives us water and food. As we become more mindful of these first Native American people, may we live in the same manner. I share these words in our Muskogee language because it's appropriate, because our ancestors lived here for over 13,000 years. And if you're to do the math correctly, this country that we now call the United States is somewhere in the neighborhood of 240. Just over, nearly 2 years ago, I came here to the Wilani Forest. I came here with my own family, my own children, with some of my elders, to just share a little bit about how this territory and this land feels to us as Muskogee people. Because let it be known today, it was not our choice to leave here. We did go to war to protect these areas. We did go through much burden to protect these areas, only to be forced to leave here under military occupation, but also to be forced to leave here after treachery, after illegally lands were taken from us, of laws that were not founded in this land, laws that were founded across the ocean. This is our homeland. My ancestors, for generation upon generation, for millennia, are buried on the very ground that you walk on every day. And I think we have a say in how we should live as a society in this day and time. And so in this moment, our hope is to be able to come back, to rematriate, to take our lives back into the intimacy that we once had with everything that grows here in what you now call the state of Georgia. To come back to every plant, to every tree, to come to a level of intimacy and respect for all that they give. Because no matter who we are and where we come from, we have to have air. We have to have water. We have to have the elements of this earth to take care of us, regardless of what we think. We're dependent on this earth mother, and she has been faithful in taking care of us. It's us that has not been faithful in respecting her. So our hope is that this earth is not destroyed before we even have a chance to come back. That lives aren't destroyed before we have a chance to come back. So today, in whatever way I come here to join the choruses of voices that you hear all around you saying what is going on now is a violence against all of creation.
Yes.
What is going on now, bringing death and harm and hurt, is a violence against all of creation.
Amen.
And we stand in solidarity as Muskogee people. I stand in solidarity with the voices that we hear of those tenants, those persons who live in the land now. Because we're not in the business of kicking anybody out.
That's right.
We're all creation.
Yes.
We want a future that has hope. We want a future that is peaceful. We want a future where our children can go and live as they see fit, where they can understand what it means to grow a seed in this earth, to drink clean water. Over the past years, I have done what I could. By vocation, I'm a clergy person with the United Methodist Church, working for indigenous peoples all over the world. That we have come to the city many times and have had a great relationship of acknowledging the source of water, the Choro Ohochi River that flows here, of acknowledging these territories. But my hope is now at this moment in time that somehow we can change the trajectory of our species and go into a direction where we can value each other. We can value the lives, and we can stop the criminalizing of dissent. We should be able to say no. Our brothers, our relatives, we should be able to say no. Today, whatever it is, I come here looking for a better place for my family, which includes all of you, for my children. And I hope that even those that have yet to be born into this earth will have a place of peace. That they will even have something as simple as a park. Something as simple as grass to walk upon. Our hope is that we can come and begin to build a future that consists of harmony, peace, and the values that my ancestors carried of love and respect and humbleness. That just maybe those will prevail instead of the presence of violence, the presence of weapons. Because let it be known, I've seen it all over the world, the increasing of the militarized forces out there does not ever create peace. It only creates harm. And it only harms those that are most vulnerable. That's the prayer that I carry today. Madhu Jagate Stick.
Thank you, brother.
Good morning. Good morning to you all. My name is Darcy Jarrett. I'm the co-pastor of Park Avenue Baptist Church. I'm a trans non-binary Baptist preacher, so we won't be here long, I promise. I come here with the full support of my community, Park Avenue Baptist Church, a community that speaks regularly and teaches regularly about the harms incurred on this land. We speak the name of the Muskogee people before every worship, every meeting and prayer, and now is the time to act. We teach about the doctrine of discovery, a doctrine that was defended by clergy people, Christian clergy people. And so I've come today to make a statement before we read our letter, a statement about solidarity with our siblings who are indigenous to this land, the Muskogee people. I'm humbled to be the one speaking at this moment, not just as a clergy person, but as a white, female-bodied human being in America right now. I am called by my very history and roots to call out for justice, call out injustice when we see it, to participate in movements that begin to repair harm, not cause more harm. My family's history is what brings me to this moment right now. My family who participated in the stripping of the lands in the Miami River Valley in what is now called Ohio. I have been in the city of Atlanta now for 20 plus years. And I want to say on behalf of the clergy standing here that we rescind the validity of the claim that this land was terra nullius, was empty before the colonizers came, before our ancestors, white people's ancestors, European ancestors arrived here. We rescind the ideals of forced conversion, of rampant unchecked commercialization, and the extraction of the land as a policy. We rescind that. We say no. We say no to Cop City, and we say no to this history. We want to move forward in a different way. It is the work of my life to trudge this path toward redemption. Redemption for my ancestors, for people who lost their way. Muskogee people, for generations and generations, were here on this land, the stewards. And when I heard Nico Chaban talk about reintroducing himself and his family to this land, my heart swelled with emotion and with the vision of how we can move forward in harmony. Dekalb County and the city of Atlanta have the opportunity to be a part of this vision. Yes. Join us. Yes. Join us. The forest is an ecosystem. Yes. Its roots are deeper than the roots of the oppression that has happened on this land, the prison farms. These roots are deeper and more profound, and they run back to our sacred land keepers, the Muskogee people. City Schools of Decatur has a statement of solidarity, an acknowledgement of harms. DeKalb County and the city of Atlanta, we call on you to make good on these words, to give the land back to our indigenous siblings so that they, as they have stated and will do and always have done, work in collaboration with the Black and Brown community right there near where the site is, outside of the Weelaunee Forest. The city of Atlanta is ready to lease this land at just $10 an acre. Instead, give this land to the native inhabitants. Repatriate this land to the people to whom is their sacred call to defend, and work in community with the Black and Brown communities that are there. The ground is crying out with injustices of the past, and the current violence continues the loss of precious life. We call on you, Atlanta City Council, to be the moral compass and to not just halt the building of this structure, but to repatriate the land to the sovereign Muskogee Nation, the sacred keepers of this land. May it be so. Amen. Amen. And now I would like to introduce Matthew Johnson, the Executive Director of the Beloved Commune Ministry, to read the letter for the City Council. Oh, actually, I would love to introduce my sibling, Reverend Leo Shage Allen, to read the letter to the City of Atlanta.
Good afternoon. Come on, y'all. I'm Baptist, so you need to talk to me. Good afternoon. All right. I know we're here for a serious reason and purpose, but I still have to find joy in the prophetic hope that there is another way possible, and that the work that is being done to protect Weelaunee People's Park and the blood that was shed on January 18th is not work that is in vain. That's right. Thank you. I also want to just give credit to the clergy and other community leaders who are here as I prepare to read this statement. We, local Atlanta clergy and religious leaders representing diverse communities, call on clergy, religious leaders, and people of faith and moral conscience across this nation and in solidarity with local Atlanta leaders to stop Cop City, stop the swamp, and defend the Atlanta Forest, Weelaunee People's Park. We need all people of faith and conscience, those who love and build community, with the knowledge that we are interconnected across culture and geographies, to join us in this work. Today we're gathered for this press conference and we will be delivering a letter to Atlanta City Council, but we invite you to continue in this faithful work that we are doing and contribute wherever you find your space in this growing movement. We call on clergy, religious leaders who are a moral authority in our society to use your power in support of the forest protectors. We are deeply concerned for the greater Atlanta community and the implications for the future of public safety in the United States if Cop City moves forward. To ignore the cries of residents, the city of Atlanta moves to destroy the nation's largest urban forest and replace it with the largest militarized police training facility in North America.
Shame.
Despite a record-breaking amount of public comment opposing the facility, Atlanta City Council still passed legislation to build Cop City. We are troubled by leadership that stops acting on the will of the people and aligns itself instead with corporate money and the dominant power structure. Urged on by the message of peace and compassion in all our faiths, we deplore escalating militarization by city and state government. Most recently, since the police killing of Rayshard Brooks here in 2020 by the Atlanta Police Department, and Tortuguita, January 18th of this year by Georgia Patrol. We applaud the rising consciousness and the need to protect humans and the more than human by resisting police violence everywhere. And may I add that in the face of the violent raid that took place last night, as city residents gathered in solidarity to defend this forest, that is an example of the militarization that we are calling out. And as people of faith and moral conscience, we say no more.
No more.
We are deeply concerned about the preservation of the Weelaunee River, its surrounding watershed and forest, specifically the area within Weelaunee People's Park, also known as Entrenchment Creek, a 3,500-acre span of urban forest roughly 7 miles southeast of Atlanta, which has always been home to a diverse ecosystem. These lands are home to the Muskogee Creek people. Since time immemorial, the nexus of their ceremonies, language, and ways of life. Through violence and greed, these lands have been subjected to centuries of abuse. From the forced removal of indigenous communities, to serving as a plantation for enslaved African labor, to the site of the old Atlanta prison honor farm in the 20th century that produced immense profits for the prison system. Today, the sounds of birdsong from the forest canopy live alongside the sound of gunfire and the adjacent APD firing range.
No more.
We are troubled by the commodification of community land, water, and air on which all of us depend. We are horrified and frankly pissed off about the raid in Weelaunee Forest that resulted in the killing of 26-year-old Manuel Paez Terán, Tortuguita, as they are affectionately known. We are profoundly troubled by the use of military tactics and escalated legal charges on members of our community, suppressing legitimate resistance while at the same time clear-cutting the forest trees despite not having the appropriate permits. From the prophet Job, a scripture held as wisdom by Christians, Muslims, and Jews alike, and beloved poetry by many outside of faiths, we are called to recognize and protect the sacred. But ask the animals, and they will teach you. The birds of the air, and they will tell you. Ask the plants of the earth, and they will teach you. And the fish of the sea will declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In God's hand is the life of every living thing and the breath of every human being from Job 12, verses 7 to 10. That the lands and the people of Atlanta have suffered violence for too long. We say no more. We declare with faith, commitment, and hope that this land will be a part of healing and repair and the flourishing of all people in the greater Atlanta community and beyond.
Amen.
As people of peace, we commit to work in solidarity for these things, recognizing the continuous efforts of the Muskogee people, Black freedom fighters, working class organizers, artists, and so many more who formed the stream of past and present liberation movements. To begin repair and healing of the harm already done, we Atlanta clergy, religious leaders, and all of those across the nation and world who are in agreement join our voices with calling for the following: a complete stop of the Cop City project and cancellation of the Atlanta Police Foundation's lease. Dropping all charges against forest defenders and protesters. We demand an independent investigation into the uses of domestic terrorism charges. We demand an independent investigation into the killing of Manuel Terán Tortuguita. We speak their name, for which recently released video footage of the event suggests there was lying and deceit surrounding the incident on part of law enforcement in their initial reporting of the incident. We demand all current and former city council members and mayors to heed the voice of the people by rescinding their explicit or tacit support for building Cop City, including former Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms and current Mayor Andre Dickens, previous council members Cleta Winslow, J.P. Matsikate, pronunciation, I apologize, and Joyce Shepard, current members Liliana Bakhtiari, Michael Julian Bond, Andrea Boone, Jason Dozier, Amir Faroki, Dustin Hillis, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Howard Shook, Keisha Sean Waits, Matt Westmoreland, and Jason Winston. The community process to continue envisioning how the Wilani River and forest can be the heart and lungs of community wellness and healing is what we are demanding. This process should center the voices of those most marginalized and impacted, Muskogee leaders and community members, incarcerated people in the surrounding prisons and their families, neighbors and those who live in close proximity to APD firing range and under police surveillance throughout the city, and community organizations fighting for holistic community safety, clean water, tree canopies, and a future for all of our children. It is not too much to ask, but we are not the ones asking or demanding this. Friends, this is God's plan for beloved community. As people of moral conscience, we will not succumb to evil or systems or policies that bring further harm and destruction. We will continue our work with justice and love until that great day when we can all live in peace as God's children and as siblings. Amen.
Now we will have Matthew Johnson, who is the Executive Director of the Beloved Community Ministries, who will close us out.
I come from the Baptist tradition. And I believe that there is a lot of missing context around when Jesus came onto the scene politically. There were many people who were thought to be the Messiah before him. Let's start with one that's been on my mind since our friend Tortuguita was killed, John the Baptist. John the Baptist tended to stay to himself. He lived in the forest. He lived off of the land. He was not very familiar. He was not very liked by the political establishment. The political establishment was of his hue
Yes.
but not of his interest.
How about that?
Right.
The political establishment was not appointed by the people, but the imperialist power of Rome.
Yes.
So we find John the Baptist in the woods, converting many and telling them of this new world to come.
That's it.
Yes.
Prepare the way.
Meanwhile,
Hey.
in the temple, they were doing all manner of evil.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with the people that instead had decided that their lot was better in the woods to create a new world.
Yes.
Lesser known than John the Baptist was Judas, and not the one that we know about, but Judas of Galilee, which is why Jesus scared people so much when he came from Galilee.
Come on now.
Judas of Galilee got his start after the increasing of taxation, you know, kind of like what gentrification does,
Yes.
because of Rome in 6 CE.
Yes.
Now, when that happened, Judas wasn't playing around. Judas said, anybody who pays the taxes, we will burn down your farm and take your cattle and have that belong to the people from this point forward. You know, Judas of Galilee got a lot of stuff done, but he was not the Messiah. Then you find Jesus, who said that we need to create a world of our own, generate the power within ourselves to change things and transform this world by the renewing of our minds, and all other things would follow. Do you know what they all had in common? They all got killed by the state. No matter what they did.
Come on now.
If you stay in the forest, you get killed. If you burn things down, you get killed. If you try to start a new world simply by transforming yourself, you still got killed.
Yes.
There's a better way.
We're projecting by the end of the day, there will be 40 people that have domestic terrorism charges.
Yes.
Many of which just for being in a parking lot.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know how anybody can accept this when you have a projected 40 people that are committed of domestic terrorism, not one dead body. Meanwhile, we can't even show the bruise on the police officer that was allegedly killed through a vest, or shot at through a vest, rather. But our friend's ashes have... We have the ashes of a friend that we will spread. We know that it was a lie around the killing of Tortuguita. And by the admission of an Atlanta police officer, it seemed as if they effed their own officer up.
That's on the video.
That's on the video. Yet still, let us keep in mind that even with the burning down of the facilities that were on that land, let's not confuse this with the rule of law why they're being prosecuted. This is the rule of the rich. Dave Wilkinson, the CEO of the Atlanta Police Foundation, although the appeal was being filed and that should have stopped work, flouted that in his email, saying that they would keep building anyway. So still, even with the burning down of all of this, and now the risking of about 24 more people getting domestic terrorism, they're still further ahead with the construction than they should be legally allowed. It is the asymmetry of state violence that we're fighting against. Now you mean to tell me, after all the violence that we've seen, that now they're going to figure out how to de-escalate a situation? I saw a police officer start running. 3 people ran. Well, shit, I mean, it's on video, so I might as well tell you the truth. So 3 people start running. 2 of them were white, 1 of them were indigenous. Guess which one he followed? He then tackled him, put him in a headlock, and his arm was face down, and his arm was down like this. And he said, and he was saying that he couldn't breathe. And then he was saying that if he didn't put his hands behind his back, he would keep choking him. Now, physically, he's incapable of putting his hands behind his back because his shoulder's pinned down.
My God.
So he keeps choking him.
No more.
And it was us that had to de-escalate it. The person with the gun and the taser tasing this man was the one that was scared for his life.
No.
That's the best you can do? And you mean to tell me giving you more weapons is going to help this problem?
Mercy, mercy.
If the only thing that you can invest in is violence, you're creating the situation to justify your own existence.
Change it.
How many times, I can't even tell you, when we were canvassing and reaching out in the neighborhood and we explained the gun range, how many people told us, oh, I thought it was the gangs. By their own violence, they're justifying their own presence and increased militarization. We can no longer accept this as a people, as Atlantans.
Don't accept
If we can't figure out a way to fix public safety without locking tons of black kids up in the blackest city in America, every person in that building needs to step down. If we can't do it here, we can't do it anywhere. Are there any questions?
What are your plans to accomplish today?
What are my plans to accomplish today?
Petitions. Presenting the petitions.
So, well, I think that the first thing that we did was awareness. And now we will be reaching out, turning this corner, and going to speak to our elected officials about our grievances. We will have them heard, and we want them to follow the courses of action that we explained in that letter.
What is your response to these allegations against the Democrats? They were being violent, they were attacking officers,
Whoa.
fireworks.
How do you know that?
This is what
They
Right.
said.
You've heard it.
Okay.
They said.
You've heard it said.
Yes. We have allegations of people being violent against police. I did not see that. I saw people in long rifles that were law enforcement officers.
Hunting.
The only person that I saw tackled was not a law enforcement officer. And as I just explicated, even with the destruction that is on this police training facility, we're still not even at a net zero yet of where they shouldn't have gone past because of the appeal process. The person that was on the Citizen Review Board or the CSAC, the Citizens, I forget the S, but Advisory Committee, actually filed the appeal against the land disturbance permit. Now that was supposed to stop the building process. However, in an email, Dave Wilkinson, the CEO of the Atlanta Police Foundation, said that they were going to keep moving forward anyway. So all of the progress and all of the clearing of the trees alone should not have happened. So even by people destroying every single thing that was on that piece of property, they've still gone too far. This is the asymmetry that we're talking about in the coverage of this project.
Yes. There's over 30 minutes of surveillance footage that was released. It does show a crowd dressed in black throwing fireworks or explosive type items towards uniformed officers. What's your take on that, or perspective? What do you say about
I
that?
haven't seen that video.
When the police raided the music festival last night, do you know if they were targeting people who they suspected of engaging in direct action, or if they were just targeting people present at the festival with not really any, without specifically going after, people?
It seemed utterly arbitrary. Once again, I saw a Georgia State Patrol officer tackle somebody, and his justification was that he was running. And generally speaking, if I were being chased after by somebody with a gun, I'd run. And this was the only justification that this officer put forward that I saw. I saw that with my own eyes.
Did you? Did you see the use of any chemical weapons or flashbangs by police in some stores last night?
I did not personally see that.
Question. This is happening in Atlanta. And so why are the majority of people engaging in violence coming from other states or even from other countries?
Well, well, as a matter of fact,
The
also got
reality
answer to
of it is that the ones who are engaging in violence are the police, and they're from right here in Atlanta, Georgia. You got APD, you got Georgia State Police, you got GBI, you got Georgia State Troopers, you got everybody except the MARTA police who are engaging in violence and terrorism against the people who are standing against this illegal land swap. So I would suggest that the next time you decide that you are going to bring up your police rhetoric that you get from whichever police source, you go ahead and discuss that with them, because we don't know what they're doing, but what we do know is what we're doing, and what we see from them that we know. I know when I get hit by an officer. I know when I see a mother with a child begging to be let up off the ground because her children are with her. I know when I see officers pointing a rifle inside a bouncy house. Anything else you want to know? Thank you. That's all we have time for. We're going to invite the clergy to line up right here 2 by 2, and we will process into the city council meeting.
If I could just say, I'd like to just bring up a story. Initially, the colonizers that came onto this land attempted to use the indigenous folks as their slaves. However, the indigenous folks knew the land so they could get away. Now, when you ask me about why is it that you keep catching people that aren't from here, that might not reflect the people that are actually involved in the resistance. God bless you.
Thank you. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a stream planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved. Fighting for our freedom. We shall not be moved. Just like a stream planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
All right, so what you have been watching on our live stream is a press conference by faith leaders who are against so-called Cop City, meaning the future site of the Atlanta Police Department's new training facility in Dekalb County. These faith leaders are calling for a complete stop to the project, cancellation of the lease by the Atlanta Police Department, dropping all charges against forest defenders, and also an independent investigation into the killing of Manuel Tortuguita as well. So obviously this is a story that we keep following, but I want to update you on the latest in case you were not aware regarding this training facility. So this is video capturing what happened last night, a lot of chaos. And I want to share with you now that more than 20 people are facing charges in relation to this incident. More than 30 people were actually detained by APD last night, facing these serious charges. You can see police scurrying to close the gates, agitators throwing fireworks, Molotov cocktails at officers. This site, again, being dubbed Cop City by those who are against it, of course has been the site of many clashes between law enforcement and protesters for months now. The chief immediately addressing the public about what happened last night, saying this behavior is not going to be tolerated. But we're going to keep following this and all your other top stories right here on Atlanta News First.